Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to be reacting to 8 ways the British and American education systems are very different. Now again, this is another video by Lost in the Pond. He seems to be doing all the good videos recently, so if you would like to check out the original video, it is in the description down below, as well as all my other links. So if you'd like to follow my Instagram, my Twitch, which I will be live streaming on, I'm not quite sure when I'll start, but I will be starting soon, and all that other jazz. And if you do want to subscribe, that would mean the absolute world to me, as I believe it is 89% of you guys who are currently watching this are not subscribed. So it would mean a lot if you hit the subscribe button and also the bell, so you know exactly when I upload next. But without further ado, let's get it on with this reaction. Let's go.
In America, they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude, magna cum laude, cumulo nimbus, or cactus priculus. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to education. Before we get underway, some disclaimers. Britain is made up of 3 countries: England, Scotland and Wales, while the UK also includes Northern Ireland. Because each country has a separate education system operating under a different government, comparing British and American approaches could take as long as a doctoral programme. Therefore, when it comes to Britain, I'm going to focus on the country of my own schooling, England. For more details on the other countries, see my links in the description. Furthermore, some of the finer details of US education can vary by state, school district and school. So for some things in today's video, there will be exceptions that prove the rule. Basically, there's going to be a part 2. Ahead of his election victory in 1997, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair summed up his political priorities with 3 words: education, education, education. The problem was, he didn't specify in what order. Schools in England date back to about the year 598. They were introduced by Augustine of Canterbury, who, like many in the 6th century, resembled a sketch of somebody from the 6th century. On the other hand, the first public school in America was the Boston Latin School. It was modelled after a grammar school in Boston, England, and among its notable alumni was Benjamin Franklin. History notes that he didn't actually graduate and quit the school at the age of 10, and he didn't even have a Nintendo Switch. Fast forward to 2020, and today's kids haven't got a clue where the word fast forward comes from. But also, those kids, like us before them, are cogs in an educational machine that has been worked and refined for hundreds of years. Except on either side of the pond, that machine is a different make and model. In fact, English and American education is very different. As somebody who was schooled the English way but married an American teacher, I'm going to take a look at those differences.
Writing's not that easy.
Oh, an advert.
Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically
differences.
Uniforms. Yeah, he's going to talk about the fact that in England we have to wear uniform.
Before we look at the education life cycle, let's talk about one of the most striking visual differences between English and American schools: uniforms. In the United States, most schools don't require one. Brits like me know this because we've seen Saved by the Bell, but that doesn't give us the whole picture. American schools do enforce a dress code. This varies by school, but in general you might see kids wearing things like khakis and polo shirts. You know, basically anything worn by 55-year-old professionals called Scott. There's typically no requirement that these clothes have to match from student to student. And while some private schools do require uniforms, this is the exception that proves the rule. In England, everything's flipped, and I'm not just talking about the roads. 90% of English schools require pupils to wear identical uniforms. Think Hogwarts without all the fun stuff. And what's fascinating is there's no government mandate for schools to do this, they just do it. It really makes me wish I'd put forth a more vociferous protest against the autocratic infrastructure of my school when I was 5, but we all have regrets.
To be fair though, the only difference with the uniform is your house. So when you grow up, like in primary school, you have like each class is like an animal. So like you have like the otter class and all that lot. So that's kind of your group, your little group. I don't know how to describe it. But when you go to secondary school, they normally have things called houses. So in my school, there was yellow house, red house, blue house, and green house. And at the end of each year, you'd have sports day, and every house would fight, not literally fight, but be very competitive over sports. Javelin, sprinting, long jump, all that stuff. So the only actual visual difference is your tie. So I was in yellow house, so I would have, it was a blue tie, but it has yellow stripes for it. And then obviously your blue house, you have blue stripes and whatever. So that's the only difference you'd see.
It's true that both countries employ a numbering system to denote a child's educational development. In England, this is measured by year, and in America, by grade. And there's a slight difference in how this plays out. England's numbering system is always one higher than America's. So, for example, English kids in year 2 are the same age as American kids in the first grade. And this is the same all the way up to year 13/12th grade. This doesn't mean that English schools randomly hold children back a year. It just means that the English year 1 serves the same purpose as America's kindergarten.
Yeah. I remember we don't call it year 1, we call it reception. Yeah, but the thing is that you go to nursery, and then you go to reception, which is like year 1, and you just play. Nowadays, though, oh my god, nowadays the reception kids know more about maths than I do. They get taught maths, science, all sorts in reception. But when I was in reception, it was, can you make a face in clay? Don't steal from your friend. You're teaching basic morals.
The whole, English and American kids attend school between about 5 and 18, but that's not the entire story. Even before all of this, there's a 2-year warm-up session. Between 3 and 5, when children still can't do easy stuff like order pizza or filter spreadsheets, parents in both countries have them sent off to something called preschool. And instead of getting punished for their abject lack of ability, they're rewarded with free playtime. Madness. Except in England, we don't normally call it preschool. This period is broken up into what is known as nursery and reception year.
Yeah, that's literally what I was just talking about.
Confusingly, reception year is technically the first year of school and year 1 is the second year.
Yeah, it's really weird actually, because in your primary school, which is year 2 to year 6, there's like a separate area of the primary school for reception. So they're not really the same. It's like a mini school in a school, but often you'd get the year 6s. In my primary school anyway, I don't know if it's the same in other primary schools across the country, but we had like, in year 6 you could ask to do jobs. So, put the chairs out for assembly, or what I volunteered to do was teach the year with the reception kids. You didn't really teach them, you just got to play with them and, just make sure they're not going to kill each other or go missing. So, that was it.
Among other things, this explains why I'm so bad at maths. In America, the school where children advance to next is known as elementary, but to English people, that's just a word that Sherlock Holmes uses when he wants to be condescending. This period of education is where children from the ages of about 6 to 11 are first introduced to the broad range of knowledge they'll need to succeed in life. So, handling basic arithmetic, developing spelling ability, and explaining grass stains. In England, schools handling this period of primary education are known as primary schools, but in America, primaries are a series of state elections for nominating a party candidate which occur roughly every week forever. And then there's the average class size. In the US, the average class size for self-contained elementary classes is about 22.
That's quite small. That is a small class.
Just saying that out loud, I can already hear the laughter from teachers in states where the average is much higher.
Is it?
For instance, Utah, where it's 27. As it happens though, 27 is the national average for English primary schools. This was even the
Yeah. I think my primary school had 34. I think it had 34, but there wasn't many primary like classrooms. I was in quite a small primary school, but it was a very busy one, surrounded by plenty of houses, but it was just quite small.
case when I was at school back in 1782. In the
What is middle school? I know he's about to talk to it, but we just go primary to secondary, and that's it.
United States, middle school is an alternate dimension that exists between elementary school and high school education. This dark underworld of sorcery is where teachers become locked in a battle of wits against a hive mind of monsters known as 8th graders. The average class size for departmentalized instruction is about 25, which only adds an extra layer to this already cruel hellscape. In England, it goes like this. The upside down is known generally as secondary school. Mercifully, the average class size is about 22, but while this nightmarish period of education, as with the United States, roughly encompasses the age of 11 to 14, it doesn't end there. In England, it drags on for another 2 years, coinciding age-wise with America's freshman and sophomore years of high school, which, by the way, brings us on to this. Ah yes, high school. In the United States, this is a period of education from the ages of about 14 to 18. After freshman and sophomore year comes grade 11 or junior year and grade 12, senior year. This is typically when the students begin their development into humans, but it's also when most students take their SATs, a series of tests to determine readiness for college. These are not to be confused with the English SATs or SATs, which are assessments taken by 7 and 11-year-olds.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, what?
In England, it is a similar process, but by a different name, and before keyboard warriors like Uncle Toby start writing in
GCSEs.
all caps that we have high schools in the UK, I know we do, but to keep things simple, that same period of schooling is typically structured like this. Age-wise, the last 2 years of secondary school are to England what freshman and sophomore years are to America. This is when pupils across the country take GCSE tests in all their subjects to determine suitability for further qualification.
GCSEs is probably, it's not the most stressful time of my life, but it was very stressful. The amount of exams and they're all essays. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It's insane.
Meanwhile, the English age equivalents of junior and senior year take place in what is known as sixth form or college. This is the point in education where we stop wearing uniforms and start dressing like John Travolta. It's also where we study 2 or 3 chosen specialised subjects as part of our A-level.
Well, it's not 2 or 3, it's 3 or 4. You have to do a minimum of 3. I did 1 A-level and 2 B-Techs, which, if people say B-Techs aren't real, like, people take the mick out of B-Techs all the time, but I just picked them because I enjoyed them, that was it.
For me, this was English, history and theatre studies because that's how you become a YouTube sensation. The results of these tests determine your suitability for university. They're often compared to America's advanced placement exams. But while both help to determine a student's path in higher education, they're not entirely the same thing. That being said, higher education does come with its own different.
Buy a quality checked used car online with free home delivery and a 14-day money-back guarantee.
Get your car with a cinch.
It's an anti-aging
Oh my god, there's another one.
superstar.
New
No.
Vitalift Pure Retinol Night Serum. Our most
Vamos.
potent retinol.
differences.
Higher education, what are they going to talk about?
In the US, college
Uni?
means something entirely different. It's the general catch-all term for an institution of higher education. In England, this is referred to as university or uni because everything devolves into slang at some point. Of course, specific
Not gonna lie, that is true.
institutions in both countries play hard and fast with this rule. See, for example, Harvard University and Imperial College, London. For American students, a bog-standard bachelor's degree takes 4 years to complete, while in England, unless I, somehow skipped a year, which is entirely plausible in hindsight, a bachelor's degree typically lasts 3 years.
Or, yeah, every bachelor's degree takes 3 years here, unless you do a condensed year, and then it's 2. But it's quite difficult, you know. To be honest, I'm currently at uni, so I actually know kind of what I'm talking about. But it's 3 years long. First year, in my degree anyway, does not mean anything. As long as I don't fail it, it doesn't mean anything. As long as I pass, I get into second year. And second and third year are the years that they will add up my averages to find out my end result.
Years. Upon completion, students in both countries can graduate with honours. The difference, though, is how this is printed on a degree transcript. In England, Bachelor of Arts, or BA, might be followed by the word honours or ons, because see previous comment about slang. In America, they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude, magna cum laude, cumulonimbus, or cactus priculus. Like any good teacher, I've left the best bit until the end of class. It wouldn't be America and England if they weren't separated by a common language. So let's take a rapid fire look at the differences in educational terminology. As we've already seen, you've got grade versus year, but you've also got semester versus term.
True, term time.
While America has its students, England has its pupils. Whether or not they attend elementary school or primary school, high school or college or uni, there's a good chance they'll have to study maths.
Maths.
And in England, we don't take tests, we take exams. In England,
a test is something that doesn't matter. Like, if you take a test, it doesn't count towards anything. It's just so the teacher knows what you as an individual need help on. That's what it means here.
A rubber erases a mistake. In America, it prevents one. And speaking of words that have different
Well, you can call condoms other things here, like a Johnny.
meanings, let's finish today's class and/or module by talking about 2 words that perennially cause confusion. Public school. In the United States,
There's not many private schools here, to be honest.
a public school is one that is publicly funded and free for students to attend. In 2016, more than 70% of students were publicly educated in the US, as opposed to privately educated. In England, a public school is something different. In the late 1800s, the term public was used in the sense of these schools being open to pupils of any locality, denomination, or paternal trade. Basically, anyone whose parents could afford it. So, an English public school is a private school. A publicly funded school, on the other hand, is called a state school, which has nothing to do with state universities in America. It's all confusing, and I've lost my train of thought. Saved by the bell. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. Let me know in the comments below if you've attended a school in either America or the United Kingdom.
Well, there we go. That is the end of that episode. Again, it does actually bring up a lot of cool points. The education system is massively different compared to the British and American, and the more I look into it, the more I see differences. It is quite crazy. It is quite crazy. I don't know. I'd like to hear an American's perspective on their education system, just to see what does an actual American think of it. And if you're watching this and you are American, then comment down below. What do you think of your education system? Do you think it's good? And if you know any differences between the English and the American, be sure to let me know down below. If I think his name's Lawrence hasn't talked about it, then maybe you could bring it up and I might reply to the comment. I'll have a little look down below. But yeah, I think that is the end of that. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below, as a little does go a long way. But also, if you did enjoy this content and would like to support me, it would mean the absolute world to me if you hit that subscribe button, as 89% of you guys who currently watch my content are not subscribed, and it would mean a lot. As well as following my links in the description down below, like my Instagram and my Twitch and all that jazz. But also, don't forget to check out Lost in the Pond's original video, which is also in the description. Now, I hope you all have a great and splendid day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.